Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Ask the Trainer live stream. I'm here with my friend Thanasis, Noseman. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just working on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Today we're gonna ask you're gonna ask your questions, and we are gonna answer them live as good as we can. And before we do so, let me jump into some housekeeping. And as you can see, there is a new thing that I'm showing. It's actually a landing page for you because we're thankful that you are joining our live stream. So this has all the links on it that we typically share during our housekeeping, like the Max on Events page, the free t-shirts page, and so on. I will go through these in a second. But other than that, you can also ask your questions here if we are not on the stream. So if you think, hey, I have a question, like tomorrow, you can use this here to submit your question, and then we will go through the questions and answer all of them as good as we can. So in case you want to access this site from your mobile devices, you can scan this QR code, and this will directly bring you to that site that I just showed you. I'm going to leave that open for another moment and then go to the next page. But I will show it in the end again. So there we go. The Max on Events page. Here you can find all the events that we are doing or attending. It's live streams as well as live events. So definitely check these out. In case you have missed a show and you want to catch up, go to the Max on Training Team YouTube channel. And here you will find all the recordings of our shows and a lot more, right? So there is a ton of training here. And if you want to learn one of our apps more in depth, or if you want to start learning it, always go to cineversity.maxon.net. And here you can find Getting Started series for all of our apps. And if you're interested in certification, here's the next page. You can access all of these from the site that I showed in the beginning. But here is the place where you can inform yourself about pro user certification as well as trainer certification. And last but not least, we want to thank you for joining our streams. And we want to give away a free t-shirt. So there's a coupon code that we share, and it's this one. And the link will be shared in the chat as well. Or you can use this site that I showed first to get there. Yeah, and then you can order one t-shirt for free, and you would only have to pay for the shipping. And without any further ado, let's have a look if we already have some questions. So please do us a favor. Whenever you have a question, please start your question with a capitalized question or a Q at least, so we can better filter them out, and then we have a better and quicker overview. So yeah, let's have a look. Did you find any questions already, Noseman?
There's a general question. There's a general question about Cineversity by Halal Studio. There's nothing really we can do about. So the question is, searching Cineversity content is not that friendly and not showing. We're trying to search as a sports motion graphic template. Is that still available to watch? I think you're looking in the old Cineversity. If you do find things that don't work, please open a ticket with Maxon tech support so they can take care of that. But I think this is what EJ did. It should be available. Maybe you should search under instructors and look at EJ Hasselfranz and try and find that. But I think it still exists. Anyway, I haven't checked. I have to do a check. There's another question by Hedgehog Legs that says, hiya back to you. I'd like to animate some bingo balls in a rotating bingo cage machine with rigid body dynamics. Is it possible to achieve a 3-second loop? Well, this is the typical question about loop. If you want things to loop, you do want them to end up where they start, okay? Otherwise, it's not a loop. With simulations, there are ways to do that and define where the final position is, but it can't be a fully simulated position, right? So you have the balls going around. You don't know when a ball that starts from the bottom and goes all the way around, if it's going to end up in the 3 seconds here or here or here. And if you loop it, you don't want it to go backwards. This is something you would have to do manually. Otherwise, you can make it appear that it's looping, but the looping is not going to be seamless. The whole objective of simulation is to create a result that looks natural, chaotic, and all that. But the loop, in the loop, you don't want it to be chaotic. And if there's a way for you to determine, maybe do a spin, let them settle down, maybe you can get closer to that. But it's not something you can do automatically, because the concept you are after is not random. So I would say the short answer, using dynamics, if you want it to look good, the answer for me would be no. You have to hand animate it in a way that each of these balls within the 3-second loop, they're going to end up in the positions they started from. And that is something you cannot achieve using simulations.
Yeah, not really. I mean, you can get close. There are some, like, it's related to that. It's not something that you can use to perfectly loop something. Maybe if you cache it out and then blend caches. I'm not sure about that.
Even that, you will get a ball that is going this way, then blending in a linear fashion and going back where it started. So
but here can be a technique that at least can give you some more control over your simulation. So basically, let me just clone this. So I'm creating a sphere, right? I'm holding the Alt key, create a cloner, and now I have a bunch of clones. Let's say we want to go with 3x3x3. And I want to scale this cloner down. So I'm going to go to the scale tool. And here's a trick. So when I just scale these down, I'm scaling the spheres and the cloner. So I'm going to undo this. If you hold down the 7 key, you will only scale the cloner here in this case. So there we go. Now we have these clones here. So one thing that you could try to make this more controllable is to use the follow position parameter of simulations. This works in Bullet Engine as well as in the new simulations. So let me add a simulation tag, rigid body, and here for the tube simulation tag, collider. And now when I press play, you can see that it's going to fall down in a second. Yeah, and hit the tube. So what you can do is you can select the rigid body tag, and then you go to forces. And under forces, you can set the follow position parameter to be something higher than 0. And when you press play, then you can see that it is simulated right now, still simulated. But let me rotate this in a little bit. So you can rotate it, but you can see that there's already a little bit of a delay in here. And now when I go to the move tool, and maybe let's use the global coordinates here, then I can just do this, right? So maybe the tube should be a little bit thicker, the collision geometry here. So let's make it thicker. And maybe also let's extend the project time here. And now we could do something like this, and at least the front spheres would stay in the front because of the follow position, and the back ones would stay in the back. This way you could get closer to a more controllable scenario, but it's not the same as creating a loop. Yeah, so yeah, maybe even when you combine that with the start position, you can get close, but it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one for sure. All right, do we have new questions? I think so.
See, let me go
I'm
down.
seeing a few. I'm going to star them here so that we
Please do.
So that we have them ready.
Let's start with Sam's question. Oops. Remap cloth cache without baking? No, because remapping is just changing the timing between set values. If you want to change the speed of your simulation, then you have to go to your simulation settings and change the time factor. And this applies to the new simulation system and the old simulation system. So my usual reply, it depends. What are you trying to achieve and how? And yeah, if you just want it to seem, for example, it's going through water or something like that, or make it go slower, then you adjust the simulation settings depending what you do. But it is, in my view, caching a simulation shouldn't be viewed as a hindrance. It's a tool. It allows you to get the general feel you want. And then the timing, you can play with it. You can make it faster or slower or even animate that. So if you can provide us with a bit more information why you don't want to cache it.
Yeah, I think that's more like a general thing with the Cinema 4D community, because well, I can see that with myself, that I dislike caching things for quite some time unless I absolutely need to cache. But actually, caching is something that is super important, and you should do whenever possible. We are, as Cinema 4D users, we are just used to keep things procedural as long as possible. And sometimes that doesn't even make sense. Another way would be way faster. But that is always an answer that is not like valid for all types of scenarios and questions. But in general, caching more often is definitely something that is a good thing. And not a hindrance, as you just pointed out, that some people feel like that. But it's not. It's really a tool, and it can help you a lot. All right. Questions are coming in. That's good.
So,
oh, Sandro added another very great comment here regarding that. Hey, Sandro, it's great to see you, at least in the chat here. So it's always wise to store simulations outside of the project files. They are streaming flawlessly, and also if you save incrementally, they will not add to your disk space.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's
And autosaves would take forever, as Sandro is pointing out as well.
yeah. But the external caching, and I think that's the advantage of having Alembic or VDB. For volumes, the volume doesn't really get stored in Cineversity. There's no data type of volume to be stored. It's always calculated on the fly. But as far as caches, if you make a point cache and you cache it in a point cache, and that's part of the file, a cache can go to a gigabyte. And every time you save, especially if you're saving in a shared drive, some sort of cloud service and all that, then the file locks, and until it sort of syncs, you can't save again. You have to save a different version, and each one is going to be a gigabyte. Whereas your cache, you save as many caches as you want. That's the other thing. You can do various different types, and if your point count is stable, you can mix between them. You can art direct it. There's a massive array of things you can do with the caching. So yeah, external files, all the way. You can share them. You can do whatever you want with them. So shall we go with Greg's question?
Yeah.
Let's see, what is this? So how can I use Pyro simulation and a meshing object to create oddly shaped, interesting, trying to smooth mesh objects? I think that was part when we were showing various toon simulations, and I think I did a tutorial about that. All you have to do, I can share my screen very quickly if you wish. Let me add this. This is
Sure.
something general I'm working on. I did something with fake water, but I'm going to do it again. Let's just take a Pyro emitter here, right? And you can use any of the grids that Cinema 4D generates. And your grids here always go to the Pyro output object, which is nothing more than a volume builder, essentially. Internally, it's a volume builder, but it has more than one grid. Density, your smoke. Color is just a vector that indicates the color per voxel. Temperature is your fire. Fuel is an interesting one because fuel doesn't react to forces the same way that this reacts. You can make it react in different ways. But let's go with a simple one, okay? I'm just going to use density. I'm going to turn it on, and to make it visible, go to your project settings and go to simulation, Pyro. Oh, it's yep, and go down right at the end, and turn this off. And this will allow you to just see whatever grids you've turned on here. But color doesn't show anything because it needs something else. This is the temperature, and this is the density. You can see there's a difference. When you have them both, Cinema 4D is smart enough to do the colorization. Otherwise, it's just a grid. So let's go with the density. Now, density usually goes up because by definition, number one, temperature pushes it up, right? It's this temperature that's pushing it up. But the other thing is, again, you go to the settings and you'll see that in your density, you have it's the dissipation and it's the extra forces buoyancy. It's over there. It's not in the density, buoyancy. Now, the reason I'm going to just explain these things so you can use them to create the effect you want. For density is smoke particles. It's very, very small, dust particles, so to speak, and they react to gravity. All right, dust. If you have no currents in your house, dust tends to fall down, but very slowly. The same thing happens with smoke when the temperature of the smoke is not higher than the ambient temperature. Otherwise, you get up currents. And that's why the density buoyancy is a negative number, because it goes against gravity. Whereas temperature, naturally, because it's hotter than the environment, goes up. Therefore, the buoyancy is positive, how much up it goes. That's why it's negative and positive. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to remove the gravity. So now we should see the density. Because there's no gravity, it doesn't go against anything, just sits there. And now I can control this using any of my forces, or I can create my own little gravity here. And let's say I want it 500, and it's going to go upwards because we have the buoyancy. But I can always go and say, something, I want my Pyro to go downwards. So make it positive. So it's going to go in the same direction as the gravity. Ooh. Oh yeah, I've got the fire. I forgot. I'm creating fire as well. So then I can make my fire buoyancy. I didn't see it, and I forgot I had fire as well. So let's go here and turn off the temperature. Now, because there's no temperature, it's going to go ever so slightly downwards, but there's no temperature pushing it up. So I can say, well, let's make this 50. So that should go downwards. Just follow the gravity. And let's assume that I like this and do one more thing. I'm going to go to my density and say, I don't want any dissipation. That means that the density is not going to dissipate in the atmosphere as time passes. We're always going to have the same total amount of density. And because our emitter is emitting more and more and more density, it's going to continuously just go down and down and down. So now I have this interesting thing that looks like ink going in a tank. And I can render it like this. Or what I can do now, because I'm creating this grid, this is an actual volume object, I can mesh it directly. So go to your volume mesher, put this underneath, and you have this. Just play around with your voxel range, and you have your object. How this is going to be rendered, then, how it's going to be generated, you can put it under a null. You can put a nice smoothing deformer here, and you can do all sorts of interesting things with the iterations and so forth, and make this sort of a weird object like that. So now you have that thingy madoodle going down. If you don't like these edges, because the way the topology is generated, is such, you can change your voxel size, just like you go to your volume builder and you set the voxel size. The same thing happens when you go to your settings, and maybe you need to make your voxel bigger, resimulate. That's going to make larger polygons, so less jaggies, and so on and so forth. Now, don't forget, these are values that get meshed on the fly, so you're going to have these odd little things going on. But in any case, oh, come on. I don't have enough smoke. Yeah, I just need to... Oh, there it is. There it comes. And play with your mesher and do whatever things. I'm going to put it at 0, which means it's going to mesh the surface of that. And there you have it. This is how you make these blobby things. Any additional information, Jonas?
No, that's... I have nothing to add.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Let's go down the list here. So what do we have here? Approach a heavy, right? This sounds interesting. So from Zach. How would you approach caching heavy simulations in C4D using Pyro, cloth dynamics, etc.? I know we can use Alembic. I'm still looking for an efficient way to deal with caching. Right. Number one, I did a quick tip a couple of weeks ago, which was about how to upscale simulations. And it's about 2.5, 3 minutes, so it has a bit of information. As far as caching it, there's no optimization other than having a large voxel size. So you have less space taking up on disk. Unless you're, the word optimization or efficiency, unless you mean something different, this is just data that gets stored. There's no, it is what it is. You look at your Pyro output. This is what you have. It has a set voxel size. It has a set sort of bounding box. It's this thing over here. If this is what you want, this is what you're going to store. So it's just storing the data. I need to take this away so I can see. You can see here, voxel size is 10. This is just a volume object, and each voxel, each of these little cubes you see here, contains a number that indicates the number of density. Alembic is for meshes, particles, splines, and all that kind of stuff. And VDB is for volumes. Alembic doesn't support volumetric data, and VDB doesn't support mesh data, as far as I know. If you have something specific in mind, please post it as another question.
So give me a second. I'm just searching for that quick tip. I have it here. I'm gonna paste the link.
I'm going to paste the link. I'm going to make a sale to go. So I'm going to attempt to do this. How a new simulation of a boat sail. A sail really moves.
That's a funny one. I love it.
All right, I'm going to give it a shot, and I don't know. I'm not going to make a sail. I'm going to make a parachute because I'm too lazy to make all these kind of things. So let's see. Let's make this a cloth. All right, there you go. We have a cloth. Excellent. Now we don't have aerodynamics, so we need to do something to sort of push it up. We are going to have a bit of a problem with this. So the next thing I want to do, let's go and put some counterweights. And something I haven't tested for reasons I do not know is what happens. And let me just press Shift S to get my Shift S. I'll get my shortcuts to work. So Control, I'm going to put some counterweights here.
I'm going to play with that too.
Play with that.
Good one.
I want to see if we can connect to rigid bodies using a connector tag. All right. So I'm going to go here to the simulation and add a connector. And let's see if it's going to attach itself, and go to the top view just so that I can see better what's going on. I'm going to move these just slightly out of, turn off my snapping now. I'm just going to turn, for some reason, my shortcuts just give me a hard time. I press Shift C and it doesn't register. I think it's my keyboard. So there you go. Just so I can see the yellow lines appear if they do. I've never tried attaching a connector to anything else. So create, live update, and let's do that. There you go. It does connect. So we need a bit more distance here. There you go. You see your yellow lines, you know that your cloth has connected to this. Now, this is just going to go all the way down because we're working in a vacuum. The aerodynamics and the sense of atmosphere don't exist here. So now let's go and make some sort of, I guess, wind and move it upwards. Now the wind is blowing in all directions. So I want to try and use some sort of field to make it blow only to a certain degree. So go here, go to the wind. I don't know, let's add a capsule field in the plus capsule field because it becomes a child and I've turned the wind. It's pointing in the wrong direction. So now I'm going to make it plus Y as it is, make it bigger, move it up, bigger. And I'm going to make this slimmer. Actually, what I'm going to do is make it so it doesn't touch the spheres. I don't want the wind to touch the spheres, but I do want the height to be bigger. So height, like that. And it's my wind. Let's go here and add 50s and some turbulence, whatever. See if that's going to work. It's doing something. I can change the mass of these things. So currently the density. Density is, so we have density and mass. Density is what material is this made of? You can have the two same spheres, one made of styrofoam and one made of metal. The metal one has a higher density. The styrofoam one is lighter, although they're same size. But if you use mass, you can have two objects of any size, and one is going to have particular mass, and the other one's going to have another particular mass. So let me go and make these a bit lighter, 0.25 in their density. So let's see if this is going to do anything. Let's increase this. Because of the lack of aerodynamics, all right, so it's doing something. 0.01. No, this is going to, ooh, that's too low. So it's when it's too low, we get a lot of infighting here. I need to start playing with parameters. I don't want to start playing with parameters. So it's doing something. So the way I see this, and I can get rid of part of the gravity here. So I make this minus 100. So now we have less. There you go. Each ball is your little boat. So in theory, you can move the boat. Now, how are you going to put the? Oh, look at that! Look what I did. Look what I did. So you need a ballast.
So it does work.
Yeah, I mean, in this context, it does work. But yeah, we got a floating thing now, a parachute. So my reply would be, there are ways of doing it. If you're doing a boat where you need to have a mast and you need it to sort of swing forwards, that means you need to put some distance on one part. Maybe you need to use friction. So there could be, it works, but I don't know if it's going to work in every situation. I can put some friction. I can confine the friction using a linear field. So now, and I want to, let's see what I want to frictionize it to. I want to put the friction on
To
the
frictionize? I love that.
forces. I want to exclude, what do I want to exclude? No, I want the wind and the friction to apply to the mast, but I don't want the friction to apply to the spheres. You know why? Because I don't care. So I want the friction to work with the spheres. So let's see. Yeah, and it is. So you can control the influence of whatever you want, your friction or something like that, using. So I'm putting more friction now, so it's going to lean even more. But because we don't have aerodynamics, it's changed the angle, and yet it's not sliding down. If we had proper aerodynamics, when it turned, it would actually slide down that way. Another thing you could try, which I haven't tried, is maybe even use the old the bullet system or the old cloth, because we do have aerodynamics there in the bullet system. How well this is going to respond, I'm not sure, but anyway, you have something here that could work. Although my advice would be hand animated. After all this,
Yes, absolutely. But I'm also playing around here, and it's a lot of fun, to be honest. Give me a second. Oh yeah, now the boat is running.
let me add you to the stage.
Yeah, it's not super beautiful, but we have a boat, and well, in this case, you could say something like, "Hey, this is not the end of the world," but apparently it is. However, so what I did here is I created this plane. This is the sail. I created the boat, and let's put the frictions here up to 1 and 1. You can go higher than 1, just in case. So this is working. So this is because of the connectors. I think at least, well, something is happening here. But you can bring down the friction for at least one of these. So what I did basically is, this is a cloth simulation. This one is a rigid body, the boat, and the ocean is just a collider. Let me just go down and see where yeah, well, it's working somehow. It needs some more refinement, but actually it's a fun one. Let's see what it would look like if we added some segments to this cube here and displaced it using a displacer. So there we go. Wrong menu. Here we go. Displacer. I just had the shift key selected or pressed, press down. When I created this, I'm going to add some noise shader here and maybe make the noise bigger and add some animation speed. like so. And I'm going to go up here and just adjust the height. And let's see what will happen. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't make it intersect to begin with. And I should make the noise bigger. But, well, that's an interesting case here. Hey, there's the boat. So you can call this art. Maybe I should make an NFT out of that. It would be super successful.
Yes, it will.
I like it. Maybe I'm going to do more out of it. However, do we have more questions? Yes. Otherwise, we're going to continue for the next 30 or 45 minutes with watching me playing around with an ugly boat falling off the cliff.
So Jay is asking, could you show some examples of how we can use a normal editor? Blah 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 blah. No, right? It unfortunately. So Jay wants to use the normal functionality, the normal tag, and I guess using fields and all that to create objects that have sort of a seamless. So here's the objective. Let me get my screen. So you have two cylinders, right? And we see that where these meet, we have this hard cut over here. And it would be nice if we can have a procedurally created normal that will allow these to be seamless. Now, you will be tempted to attempt to make these editable, then go to the phone tags and create normal tag, overwrite the existing normal tags, and then use fields and drop one object into the other and so forth. It won't work. There's still things that won't allow you to do something like this. Now, there are ways to get around it, so to speak. Maybe you can drop the normal maps into vector volume and do stuff like that. What I would suggest is it's better to use a round node. So if you go to Redshift and you type round
corners, yeah.
Round corners. The round corners is actually going to take the objects that are assigned this material and create. You put this in the bump map over here. And what this should do, if it doesn't, just forget the last segment of what I'm doing. Let's turn this on. And you can see that it's creating some sort of seamless interaction. So we can go to the round corners over here, and we can increase this. And you can see that it's sort of doing that, okay? That happens in render time. So that is one way. Of course, you have to be careful of all the other objects and all that. But in general terms, you can do it in render time with whatever other things you're going to have, because here they overlap, it blends the normals and all that. I would say, although there are ways you can sort of do it in Cinema 4D, and here it requires a lot of overhead and other objects to hold the data and do stuff like that. And most chances are that it's going to break. Hopefully, the great people at Maxon are going to bring us this feature very soon. I have no idea. I'm just saying that in case anyone is watching. So that is that. Use Redshift Magic instead of all right. This is an interesting question. Noseman asks, how often do you use Redshift Matrix instead of a cloner? Me, personally, I don't do things. I just provide solutions. The matrix object just provides you the ability for Redshift to create those instances. What are they called? The Redshift instances? Redshift. where are the Redshift things? It's well, the matrix scatter itself is just a matrix object and has the tag here. And you go and you say, yeah, create the particle. So the matrix object, I'm going to talk about the matrix object here for a second. So I'm going to create a new matrix object over here. So you understand what a matrix object is. So here's my matrix object. If you make this editable, you see it turns into nothing. Actually, it's not nothing. If you go to points mode, it creates for each and every one of your matrices, it creates 4 points. This little point is the position of the matrix. Come on. So if you go to any MoGraph object, you have, this is the matrix, right? These 9 numbers are the matrix. And the way it's encoded in the matrix object is that the first point, or every 4 points, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 0, 4, 8, and so forth is the position. The point up here is the Y scale, the scale here. This point here, and this, if I measure where this is, it should be 1 centimeter away from that. So this is at 200, it's on 0Y. This is on 1Y. So this 1 centimeter holds the scaling. And how this is rotated, this whole thing, encodes the rotation. So by having each of these points as an indicator for the center of your matrix, the Y position, the X position, and the Z position, and how these are rotated, these 3 points in any direction, that's how the matrix object encodes the position scales and rotations. What the RS matrix does, it treats this as a particle system. That's all it does. And now, if anyone didn't realize, we have a new draw size for the matrix on the matrix object. And what this does, it takes every 4th point, which is the position, and you can add anything you want, for example, an object. And it does it in a very optimized way. The distribution happens when you render. So it doesn't overload your CPU, just sends everything and does all the matricizing in the GPU. So I can take the most terrible of all creatures and turn this off, go here, drag the figure, and there's nothing here to see. It's very fast. In theory, we should see a lot of these little buggers here. There you go. So it's a render time, cloner. So the difference between cloning on a cloner and using the RS matrix is equivalent to using a cloner with multi-instancing. Okay, so if I put this under here, this is 41 and 40. Turn it to multi-instances and put it 41 and 40. And the distance between them is 10.5, 10.5, 10.5, 10.5. With a multi-instance, you get the equivalent. So you can choose to do this using a cloner and multi-instance or the Redshift matrix. I'm not absolutely sure if in reality it's faster. Do you have any experience on that, Jonas? Or it should be identical?
So it shouldn't. Well, the matrix scatter compared to the
multi-instance
shouldn't be much faster, actually.
Oh, unless you're drawing. So multi-instance, for anyone that doesn't know, has a little viewport mode. See this little viewport mode? And currently it's showing the object. So let me just fold this down. It's showing the object. So this data exists in RAM one way or another, right? You have to draw these, how many points and polygons times that. It does it in an optimized way, but it still has to draw these things. You can always change this to a matrix, or you can always change into the bounding box. And this optimizes it even further in terms of your viewport speed. I mean, shall I try?
Or switch it off.
Or switch it off. Right, I'm going to say off, just points. I'm going to do something silly. I apologize. So we have 400 times 400. That's 16 with 4 zeros. 160. Is that 4 zeros?
Yes, that's
100.
accurate.
Only 160,000. No, I want a million here at least. There you go. We have at least
1.6 million.
1.6 million. Okay. And because we have this set to points, it's fairly okay. I can navigate on my old PC here. So let's test it. Let's go to Redshift and see how long it's going to take to render this. So click. Account 1 Noseman, 2 Noseman, 3 Noseman, 4 Noseman, 5. Anyway,
Is that how you count?
yeah, it's seconds. So I don't know what it's doing now. Oh, can anyone hear my fans?
I think I heard it.
Updating objects, transferring. Maybe we'll see something here, right? Let's let it put the first pixel. We're around 20 seconds now. Preparing the scene. It has to take all these things, create something, send them to the GPU, preparing materials and whatnot. I don't know what it's doing and what data it's sending. I have a fleeting suspicion that the Redshift matrix using the object is going to be faster, because I think what's happening now is the data is being prepared on the CPU and the RAM. When it's ready, it gets shot to the GPU, and then Redshift takes over. Whereas I think if we use the Redshift matrix, it sends the one little character and all the points and does all that in GPU. And GPUs are extremely efficient when you go, there you go. I don't have enough VRAM for that. Excellent. So let's see.
Yeah, maybe the matrix scatter is better then.
Let's test it. Let's test it. Now the RAM has to clear. Let me right click here. Do this, and let me make sure 4,400. 4,400. And let's try this. We have the figure there. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to move this. And are you ready for this? Let's see if it's going to work. Boom. Let's see if the error is going to, right. 1 Noseman, 2 Noseman.
Well, in the meantime, I can show another question. Well, another answer to a question that is actually related to the matrix scatter. Yeah, let me just do this. So here is the question: how to scatter trees vertically upwards on a sloped surface using matrix scatter.
Easy.
So that's actually a pretty easy one. So what I did here is I created a landscape object. There we go. And then I used the matrix scatter, well, the matrix object, and I then added a Redshift object tag to it. But that's basically the same as a matrix scatter. So the only thing that you need to set up here is there is a checkbox that is called align clone. And what's happening here is when I untick this, then suddenly all the clones will be like aligned to the global space. So they are going to point upwards. And here in the object tag and the rs object tag, I'm going to enable custom objects here in the particles. And then I'm going to throw in that tree and fire up Redshift. So yeah, that was for my test. But yeah, that's it. And if you go to the matrix and align clone again, you can see that the clones are lying somewhere, somehow on the floor. But align clone is the magic thing here.
By the way, I ran out of RAM
again
as well. Again, exactly. So now I'm trying it with 400 times 400. Lame. Lame. Let's see if this is gonna be faster or slower or anything like that. It may be
that would be the way you said it. Just reminded me of the Game of Thrones scene, and you just
shame. Yeah.
Yeah, but instead of shame, lame. Yeah. The walk of lame.
With 400 and 400, the times are similar. So your homework is to find out which is faster. But in any case, these I think are interchangeable because there's a lot of work done from the Cinema 4D and Redshift developers in optimizing the thing as much as possible. So I would suspect that whether you're using the matrix scatter or the cloner in multi-instance, if not identical, I think it will be similar because the whole idea is that you have one version of the object and then the renderer decides how to distribute it around, something like that, just like a particle. So the Redshift matrix is nothing more than treating the matrix object as a particle system.
Yeah. So we have a few more questions coming in. So I wanna reply to this one here. What is the best way learning this software? So this software we are referring to Cinema 4D. Let me go to this one here. Again, I'm going to show this QR code. Just either scan this QR code and then you will get to this side. And I can paste the link again. Or Kyle, if you could do that in the background, that would be great. So Kyle is in the background. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle is always here helping us. And what did I want to show? Yeah, go to Cineversity. And on Cineversity, cineversity.maxon.net, you can find the link on the page that I just showed. There are Getting Started series here. And here you can get started with Cinema 4D, with Redshift, and with all the other Maxon apps as well.
You forgot to say, go and download the trial version.
Exactly.
Sign up for free, and you get 2 weeks a fully functional version of Cinema 4D, and then you can follow along with the tutorials you can watch.
And Maxon 1. So
watch. It's
not just Cinema 4D. It's also ZBrush and Red Giant and Redshift and Forger and everything. All right. So yeah, this is the way how I would. Well, this is my recommended way of getting started. All right.
I'm going to go for some heated questions here. Rolat, why doesn't Cinema 4D have professional character animation process and tutorials? I disagree. Did you watch the rigging tutorials by Joe Herman and all that stuff we did? Another mechanical.
Okay, let's just show that. Sorry. So I'm still sharing here. Let me go to this one. And if you go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel and you just go to the search here and search for character, you will find quite a lot of stuff once the page will load. Connect to the internet. Can you still hear me? I think so, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
What's happening here? There we go. So, character creation, Cinema 4D, ZBrush, Redshift, intro to rigging. So there is a bunch of stuff. Usually these are recordings of our demystifying post-production series. So series of like 4 live streams, but there is a ton of stuff that you can watch to get started with character creation, character rigging, and also a little bit of animation, including mocap. So they're also we also did mocap series. So here's mocap. There you go. So there are learning resources for that. Just you just have to search on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. You will find some great stuff.
Not only that, I think we have a lot of stuff on Cineversity as well. And we have both a very professional tutorials and very professional animation tools. If you disagree with that, send me a tutorial that shows something very specific, and I'll see if I can. So everyone can reach me on Twitter. You can DM me at NosemanGR. Because we have both tutorials and processes, and a lot of people are doing character animation. Of course, a lot of people compare it to Maya, for example, which has, it's the industry standard. But and yes, Maya has an extensive array of character animation tools. But knowing people that work on both software for a wide range of applications, 90% of the applications, you'll find that Cinema 4D is easier to use to do character animation. So let us know what you're trying to do, and I think we can guide you from there. All right.
Absolutely.
Let's see, what do we have here? Another question by Rolat. When will Cinema 4D have the ability to stylize and render 2D and 3D as powerful as Blender? Well, I'm not going to do comparisons to Blender. Blender has a very specific tool designed to do that. I think Grease Pencil is what you're talking about. You don't have to learn Blender, but if that's what you want, that's what you need to learn. We are continuously developing the tools. Cinema 4D has Sketch and Tune, which gets you to a certain point, depending on what you're trying to do. As far more than that, I don't think. Yeah,
maybe let's just show that. Do you have a good example? Well, we can actually just have a look at the asset browser Sketch. Let's go to scenes here. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that we can.
The thing is, I don't like to show comparisons when people are referencing Grease Pencil, because it's very advanced. It makes no sense to show sketching.
Yeah, I just want to show what can be done, right? So there we go. Mm-hmm. So this is the rendering of this 3D object. There are very powerful tools to create these styles. Also here, maybe with the house. Maybe this will load a little longer. But yeah, if we render this. So it's CPU rendering, but still you can see there's stuff that we can do. And also including the shading, you can see that the shadows here are here, but with sketches or with streaks down here, you can see that as well. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do.
Oh yeah, depending on the style you're trying to do and all that.
Yeah, the way to get this is if you have to go to standard renderer, and then you activate Sketch and Tune, and here you can set up many things, and then along with that, you can create where is it? Sketch materials. Where is it? There we go. And in here, you have a ton of settings that allow you to adjust the strokes, to adjust the shading itself. There are a ton of options, actually. So definitely check these out. All right.
Okay, we need to run through these because it's 1 minute to.
Yeah, I have one that I want to reply to. Does Cinema 4D work on the Mac M3? Yes, it does. Yeah, Ellie from the training team is using an M3. If you want to see that in action, you can go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, and she did a live stream about optimizing for Redshift and so on, and she did that on the M3. So yes, that's working.
So decide, Jonas, how many questions are we going to take? Because
that depends on on which question. So let's say we have 5 more minutes to answer questions, and then we.
Okay, let's go with something I can show very quickly. Advecting particles.
Okay? Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. So very quickly, let's advect some particles. It's fairly simple. It's one switch, but I need to do all my Pyro stuff. So simulation, Pyro emitter. So we have our Pyro here, and at the same time, I'm going to use a traditional emitter. You can use thinking particles and all that. I'm going to make it smaller, and we're going to emit some particles right there in the middle. Good. We can't see them because So 500 and 500. And basically what you need to do to advect particles, you need to go to Control D, my settings, Pyro, and it's the fluid force factor. This number there. Now I think they're going to go a bit crazy. Let me see. Let me turn this off. I need to turn off the draw. Boop, boop, boop. So where's my draw? Turn it off. They're not moving. Advect. Oh, yeah. I need to turn on. Oh, I have my velocity. Do I need it on? My God, what have I done here? Fluid force factor. Is 100 going to work? No. I thought it would work immediately, the fluid force factor. Okay.
Maybe you have to use the volume in a field force.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. That's the whole idea. I thought it would work directly. Anyway, let's go just put the velocities here, field force, because there you don't need the field force factor, right? If this is off, it will work with the field force in any case. Right, I'm going to get back to you on that because they should work. You can see now with the field force, there's no, let's put this to 0.1, and you will see that the particles are sort of advecting. You can see them, right? They're advecting based on that. But I thought the fluid force, so I'm missing, probably a switch or something. I just thought that this will immediately make the particles move. No. I need to look into that again. I need to look.
No, I really think that you need the
field force.
think you need the field force.
Yeah, it's for cloth, the field force factor. Yeah, that's my mistake. You need to use the. You are right. Jonas, sorry about that. So that's how advect particles. And I'm going to go for, I think, for the last one. We're 3 minutes past. How can I animate a fade visibility in and out on a mesh with several Redshift materials comparable to the display tag? I don't think you can do that for several materials because you want it in the render, right? So you just need to go to the materials and control the opacity using some sort of value. There is a way to bring in data from an object, so you can drive materials that apply to this object. Maybe very quickly, you create an object here and you add a user data. So add user data, whatever you're going to add, add user data. I'm just going to call it, we do already have data, right? So this is a user data. And basically what you need to do is for this particular user data called data, when you create a Redshift material, you go to user, and this was a scalar, if I'm not mistaken. Apply the material here, and you should be able somewhere here. Why can't I get anything? I think you just need to type data here and go to the color and add Redshift, turn it on, and it's black, user data. Yeah, that's how you connect the data. So what you're going to do is take the name of this on the sphere. Where's my data? Is it? No, I need to go to the sphere and get my user data. I had the material, manage user data. Use this name. You can name it material opacity and all that. But you need to make sure that the material is applied to the object that contains that data. So there are some restrictions in this, but you can create colors and stuff like that. And as long as the materials are applied to the object, I think you can drive multiple opacities with this. So you will go here and get your opacity. There we go. So this will create the opacity, and you can go to your sphere now and change that opacity. I'm going to make a cube, put it on the back so you can actually see it. And let's take a second material, which is, let's say, red, and apply the second material here as well. And yeah, let's make this a flat project. Anyway, because both of them have that opacity, both of these materials are going to be affected by that. All right, so hopefully that helps what you're trying to do. And don't forget, opacity doesn't have index of refraction. It's just straightforward. Whereas if you want to do it in your transparency, in your transmission, then you can have bent rays and all that. Hopefully this helps you do what you want to do.
Yeah, I just found the solution for one other question, so maybe let's take that last before we wrap up. So I'm talking about this one by David. With a given set of clones in space, not cloning onto a spline, is there a way to push clones along the direction of a spline without using dynamics? Yes. So yeah, my screen is already being shared. That's great. So what I did here, I just created a matrix object and a spline and a random effector here, right? So what you can do with a matrix, and that's pretty cool. That's why I'm using a matrix instead of the cloner here. What you can do with a matrix is you could create a spline wrap deformer and just add that as a child here and use the spline to wrap that set of clones along the spline. So in this case, it's Z direction. So now you can see that. And we can add the random effector here. And what we can now do in the spline wrap is we can use the offset parameter to move these matrices along the spline. So the reason why I'm using matrices instead of the clones is because the clones would deform here. The matrices don't. So, or maybe they do. But what you can do then is you can, let's say, create. Let's use toruses, toruses, and clone them onto an object. And the object is supposed to be the matrix. And now what should be happening is that we get these donuts here, but they are not being deformed. If we did the same this way, well, that won't work because we don't have the same setup here. So in this case, we need a grid of, well, yeah, however, you can already see that stuff is deforming, and that's what we don't want. So let's do it the other way around and set this to object, clone onto the matrix, and this is how it would work. And now you can still move these around. They can even be randomized in rotation here. Let's go with 90 by 90 by 90, something like that. And as you can see, it's all stable.
You can add follow position and follow rotation at a small value in your simulation. So you can move them using the parameter that Jonas is showing. At the same time, they will collide amongst themselves and avoid collisions. That's great for doing things like blood cells, moving through stuff. So you can combine both and have deterministic animation using sliders, plus the avoidance that dynamics. If there's an object, it will go around it and stuff like that. If you want to see, maybe I can do a quick tip. Send me
that's a good one.
Yeah. Send me a DM and I'm going to do a quick tip just for you.
Oh, that's great. So let's just maybe bring up quickly where are our social channels. There we go. Noseman GR and Jonas Pilz 3D.
DMs are open.
DMs are open. Let us know. And if you have more questions after this session, then I want to remind you again, I'm going to go to the housekeeping here, that we have this beautiful new site. And Kyle, if you would be so nice and post the link again. You could also use this QR code to get to the site. If you want to come here by or using your mobile device. But the interesting part here is that this has the links to all the important stuff, to the Max on Events page, to the page where you can get the free t-shirt if you use the coupon code that we showed earlier, and I'm going to show it again here. You have to put it in once, and then you can order one t-shirt for free. Max on Training Team YouTube channel, Cineversity, and this nice little form that you can use to ask your questions. And this would be a big help if you use that, because then we can prepare questions and start with cool and prepared scenes.
Because
all right.
Because we never get enough questions.
we never get enough questions, and our stuff isn't, well, today was pretty beautiful. When I think back of the boat, that was pretty cool, actually. So in case you missed it, watch the recording, because it's absolutely worth it. Just for the boat. All right, cool. Excellent. Yeah. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed it. And I also hope to see you next time in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And ask your questions using that form. Put them in there, and we'd be happy to answer them next time. All right. Bye, everyone. I hope you had a good time.